almost live from the Herbert I. Greenberg Studios at WHIG. It's Up Late with Sam Bass.
Thank you, Scott Smith, and welcome to Up Late with Sam Bass. I want to take a moment to thank our new sponsor, Metro Maintenance of right here in Rocky Mount. Benton Moss and his team over there, man, they do a great job in the city, in the community. I'd like to take a minute. I want to do this every week. I want to take a minute to recognize a person on his team. Tonight, we're going to talk about Karen Cruz. Karen's been working over there for 25 years. She is the person they refer to as the quarterback. She dispatches the work, and she makes sure the customers are all taken care of. So shout out to Karen. Tonight's guest is a young man by the name of Austin Meyrick. Austin is the Brewmill Manager out at Rocky Mount Mills. What exactly is a Brewmill Manager? You might ask. We'll find out exactly what he does in a little bit, and he has a fun story or two to share. So we're almost through the month of February, known for such great holidays as Groundhog Day. By the way, Puxacani Phil did not see his shadow this year, so supposedly we're going to have 6 more weeks of winter. Or is it the other way around? I can never remember. He's never right, though. I do know that. However, I did see my shadow, and that means there will be 6 more weeks of bourbon. And I can assure you, in fact, every day that I see my shadow will ensure that there will be 6 more weeks of bourbon. Cheers. So in February, we also celebrate President's Day. With that in mind, I have compiled a top 5 list of my favorite quotes of presidents. And these are real. And I'm going to leave our current contenders, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, out of it. Because frankly, it's hard to make sense of anything either one of them say. And it's mostly insults and gibberish and a lot of bragging, kind of like what I do on this show. So here's my top 5 list. Number 5. I'll bet you won't guess who said this. Being president is like running a cemetery. You got a lot of people under you, and nobody's listening. Anybody know who said that? Sandy? No? Austin? No? It was actually Bill Clinton, Slick Willie himself. Not quite as famous as his other quote, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. Sure you didn't, Bill. Number 4. This is from Ronald Reagan. I can kind of relate to this. I have left orders to be awakened at any time in case of a national emergency, even if I'm in a cabinet meeting. I believe he was insinuating that he might fall asleep in a cabinet meeting. Not a good look, but I believe our current president, Joe Biden, can relate to that because he reportedly fell asleep during one of Obama's speeches. I believe we got a picture of that. There it is. Number 3. Speaking of Obama, here's his quote. 6 years into my presidency, some people still say I'm arrogant, aloof, condescending. Some people are so dumb. He was kind of that way, though. You know, I watched the interview between him and Zach Galifianakis on the old show Between Two Ferns. And Obama said to Zach, I have to say, when I heard that people actually watch this show, Zach's show that is, I was pretty surprised. I feel he would probably say the same thing about this show. Maybe not. Number 2. So these are what are known as Bushisms. They're from our 43rd President, George W. Bush. The first one is, they misunderestimated me. It's even hard to say. I really don't think misunderestimated is a word. I'm not sure how W made it through school. I know he bragged about having a C average. Maybe there were some bribes involved. I don't know. That's just speculation. But I do think the next one is right on the money. I'll be long gone before a smart person ever figures out what happened inside my Oval Office. To be honest, folks, I think a lot of good things happened in there. We just won't know in our lifetimes. And the number one presidential quote from Abraham Lincoln, Honest Abe. And he starts it off with honestly. Here's the quote. Honestly, if I were two-faced, would I be showing you this one? He said that because he wasn't known for being a really good-looking man. You know, John Check recently said the same thing to me, right? We'll be right back with my good friend Austin Meyrick. Stay tuned.
Metro Maintenance has provided fast, reliable services in Nash, Edgecombe, and Halifax counties for over 35 years. Metro Maintenance offers services for residential, commercial, and institutional facilities. These services include heating and cooling, electrical, plumbing, and general repairs. Our numerous years of experience, knowledge, and resources help us to accomplish our mission of serving our customers with superior service achieved through integrity and hard work. All of our work is guaranteed. For service, call 252-977-2730 or find us on the web at metro-maintenance.com.
We're back. I've got my special guest with me, Austin Meyrick. He is the Brewmill Manager out at Rocky Mount Mills. What is a Brewmill Manager? Please tell me.
That's a great question, Sam. So I imagine my position entails really facilitating the space and the production for the other tenants, right? And so we have a number of different breweries that occupy our space, right? And Capital Broadcasting owns all of the equipment, and I make sure the equipment is operating as it should, and that any brewery moving in or operating in the space currently understands exactly how to operate the equipment and how to package and produce beer effectively and efficiently.
So I think you brought something tonight that we're going to try to test. I'm good at testing alcohol, by the way, that you said is the future of beer for 2024. Tell me about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm excited to share it. It is a dark lager produced by our newest brewery on campus, Lorema, right? For the coffee shop downtown. They opened up a brewery space there on campus for the Mills, or with the Mills. And this is my personal favorite, and what I believe is and will be the beer of 2024, which is a dark style lager, right? So this is a Schwartz beer made by Lorema, and it is absolutely fantastic.
I just happen to have a couple of cups here. We're going to test it and see how it's any good or not. I'm sure it's going to be great.
Perfect.
So it's a dark beer, kind of like Guinness, maybe?
Yeah, so it is dark, similar to Guinness. However, it's a lager, right? And so it's going to be, it's 5.5%, and it's crisp and clean, easy drinking, low alcohol.
Let's give it a shot.
Cheers.
It's pretty good.
I think it's spectacular.
It almost has a coffee taste to it in a way.
Yeah, it really does, and that's coming solely from the roasted barley that they have in the recipe.
Let me take another sip just to make sure it's good.
Double checks.
That's really good. And
Really
the
nice.
coffee flavor is really there. So, when I hear this beer is made, the word incubators comes up. So is this beer eggs under an incubator type deal? That's what it sounds like to me, but I'm guessing it's not like that though. Tell me a little bit about the process.
Yeah, so originally our model was an incubator type of model, right? We've since shifted a little bit. Originally we were focusing on individuals who have been home brewers for years and are looking to get into professional brewing, and hence the incubator, right? We would incubate them in this facility and kind of get them up to speed on how to be a professional brewer. We've since transitioned our model into be focusing on alternating proprietorships. So now the Rocky Mount Mills is looking at existing breweries who have maxed out their production space, or maybe are looking to utilize some equipment that they wouldn't otherwise be able to afford, such as like a canning line.
Right.
And so we're focusing on these existing breweries, bringing them into our space, allowing them to produce in excess of what they would otherwise be able to produce, and include some amenities, right, that they wouldn't otherwise have access to.
So is there like a reach of different people that come in and use y'all's facilities, or it's just local people, or?
No, it's as of right now, it's across the state, right?
Okay.
So we've got breweries in eastern North Carolina, in the Triangle, right? We haven't yet pulled a brewery in from the western region of our state, but for the most part, I mean, it's predominantly across North Carolina.
Yeah. So you've said that this is the new thing for 2024, and it's going to a great direction here. I really like it.
Yeah, lagers are making a big comeback. Historically, lagers have been, kind of bottom tier, right? People are on the IPA craze, the hazy IPAs, the fruited sours, things of that nature. But we're kind of coming back into our roots as brewers.
Well, so I'm more of a bourbon guy, and I really don't get the whole thing. You're going to have to educate me on the whole differences and all the different kinds of beers and IPAs and all that stuff like that. So do you see a lot of competition in the craft beer industry? I mean, as far as, do y'all compete or complement each other?
I mean, it's really interesting, right? Like with so many different collaborative spaces, there is competition, but it's all collaboration, right? And it's all community building, right? And so within the craft beer industry, sure, you've got brewery A and brewery B, and they're competing to sell their product against, each other.
Right.
But it's so community oriented and community driven, specifically with where those breweries are located, that it fosters this beautiful realm of collaboration and really focusing on the community and
Well, that's great to hear. I mean, it's good to be competitive, but it's also good to get along with folks and for the goodness of the whole product.
No, without a doubt.
So, but like I said, I'm a bourbon guy, and so I went all out, and we did some Eagle Rare night.
We did, and I really appreciate that. Cheers.
Yes, sir.
One of my favorites.
So, how did you get into this whole career? Is this something you went to school for?
It is, yeah. So my parents, right, I feel like that's where everybody kind of starts, right? They kind of took the European route, so to speak, with incorporating alcohol into my life. And so I started drinking at a relatively young age, drinking responsibly, that is.
Sure.
Understanding what exactly it is I'm consuming and appreciating the product for what it is, right? And so I started off at Appalachian State, majoring in, originally it was business, economics, and finance, and then did a couple lectures in the business hall, quickly realized that was not for me at the time.
Your thing.
And changed my major to the chemistry of fermentation sciences, which was a fantastic
This is a true thing. It's a degree, fermentation sciences.
4-year bachelor degree.
That's great.
Correct. Took me 5.
What did you want to? I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyhow. What did you want to be as a kid?
That's a great question. My kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Williams, will tell you that when I reported it, right, as they do, they provide worksheets for kids, and I wrote down and described how I wanted to be a proctologist.
That's a little different from what you're doing now.
Without a doubt, wildly different.
So you went to Cary High School, correct?
Yep.
Okay, and there was a talent show there called Mr. Cary. You competed in that, correct?
Matter of fact.
What was your talent?
My talent was all over the board. I mean, really, it was just me doing a speech, right? It was public speaking in a sense. It was me running for president, guiding the school into what would have been mayhem.
Well, that's kind of what I did in high school too.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the other thing I noticed about you, I have heard my crack research staff has told me that you're into rock climbing. Is that right?
It's true. It's true.
That is insane.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play a clip of it because I want people to see exactly what you're doing. tell us more about it. It looks very dangerous.
Hardly.
It's not?
I wouldn't call it dangerous, no. I would say it's well within my means of risk, right? Everything has risk, and you know, it wasn't so bad. There's some wiggle room in there, right? And sometimes you get a little bit nervous, but it's not. Well, we've got padding underneath us.
Well, I was watching the video. I was a little worried for you.
I appreciate that.
So where was this taking place at?
That was in Boone. North Carolina.
Have you ever thought about, you know, I'm going to be up here on the rock climbing, I might actually die today? Have you ever thought about that?
It's, I mean, you get nervous. Sometimes you get nervous. Sometimes there are these things called highball boulders, which, so in the video that was presented, it was, you know, that boulder was maybe like 10, 15 feet off the ground. Mm-hmm. Nothing crazy, right? But highball boulders I would consider a highball boulder anything over 20 feet. So once you're climbing 25, 30 feet up, and you're not, you know, supported by any gear, any rope, you have no level of protection, it's really a bit of a head game, right? And controlling that fear and controlling that focus into saying, look, like, I know what I'm doing, I know the moves, I've just got to follow through with my plan.
Anytime I see anybody climbing rocks, I got to think, God, they got to have some strong hands to be able to do that. I mean, it just does not look easy. But I want to get to another point here. You did a road trip to Alaska in a bus. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so some friends of mine came up with this idea. One of my best friends, his brother owns a timber framing company, and so he had outfitted this 1990 Bluebird school bus to go on the road and to be lived in, right? So it had a kitchen, a set of bunk beds, and a queen bed in the back. And me and 5 of my best friends got in the bus and made our way to Alaska.
That sounds like a good time. I mean, just taking that trip, it had to have been a good time.
It absolutely was. It really was.
So I'm going to move on, because when you were in college, I heard, again, my crack research staff said, you had an unconventional way of making money when you were in college. Tell me about that.
Definitely. So campus jobs were relatively low paying, right? Mm-hmm. And
so what campus jobs are you talking about?
You know, working at the food hall, working XYZ, you know. Right. And so I was like, okay, well, what's the highest paying job on campus? And the highest paying job on campus at the time for $12.50 an hour was to be a figure model for the drawing 1 and 2 classes within the art department.
What does figure model actually mean?
So it's a nude modeling position.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
A nude model?
Yep.
How was that? How did you find that experience?
I found it jarring at first and wildly uncomfortable. But, you know, like with most things, you kind of get accustomed to it and you realize, hey, you know, all these students, they're professionals. Yeah. They're here looking to learn.
Professionals.
Practice their trade, right? And so it was wild. It was wild. But you get used to it.
I can imagine. I mean, I don't know. So when you were doing this modeling, was it cold in the rooms?
That's a fantastic question. Yeah, matter of fact, specifically when I first started, it was spring semester. And keep in mind, this is Boone, North Carolina. Right. It is chilly, to say the least. And thank goodness my professor the professor who was in charge of the class, right, who was facilitating the artist drawing me. And keep in mind, I'm center stage on a podium, and all of the students, my peers, are circled around me while they're drawing me.
Right.
And yeah, he was kind enough to install a space heater. Right, and this was a stationary space heater that was blowing on me directionally. So I would be standing there, and I always thought this would be such a funny stand-up bit. And I'm not a stand-up comic, but I do think this would be funny. The space heater is blowing on me front side, and I've got half of the room facing me, and I would look down, and I would look at my body, and I'd say, okay, this is me, you know? I am who I am. Draw away, you know, and I'd feel a sense of like comfort and a sense of maybe even a little bit of pride, and then you want to give everybody an opportunity to draw a different aspect of the human body.
Right.
And so you turn, and when I would turn and the space heater would be blowing on my backside, you can't help but look down and say,
what happened?
What happened? Exactly right, Sam. What happened? Where did I go?
Yeah.
And
all of a sudden the confidence level goes way down.
it goes way down. But the only thing that would get me through those sessions was imagining one guy on one end of the room and the other guy on the other end of the circle exiting class together, and one of them saying, yo, that guy, I feel really, really bad for that guy. And the other guy, as self-conscious as can be, saying, oh yeah, dude, that guy had it rough. No, I've got plenty of stories revolving around it.
I can imagine there's a lot of stories there. So you were talking earlier about your parents' influence on you and going to Jimmy Buffett shows. And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, my parents they're spectacular people, and they've always been huge in my life as far as introducing me to new things, whether that be alcohol or fantastic music. They took me to my first concerts, including Coldplay, Dave Matthews Band, Jimmy Buffett, U2, classic parent music.
Right.
No offense, right? No offense, Sam.
I'm very offended, but go ahead.
But it was fantastic. My parents have had a big influence on me, and they have great music taste.
Well, that's a good thing, because my daughter's 26, and I've got an influence on her music, and she listens to great music. She listens to this new crap as well, which is fine, but she also likes the Beatles and Steely Dan and all the good stuff like that. So I did hear that also you really like old, and Robbie will appreciate this, old country music. Tell me the guy you used to. It was older than I knew about.
Right, that's kind of been my latest venture is diving into classic old school country. The guys who influenced Hank Williams, and I'm talking about Blaze Foley and Townes Van Zandt, and they're just absolutely incredible. And it's a kind of music. Growing up, I never really listened to country music. My parents weren't big into country music, and so getting to see that side of culture is really eye-opening, and Townes Van Zandt is just an incredible lyricist.
So I listened to something that kind of reminds me of Chris Christopherson type music.
Sure.
So you mentioned Townes Van Zandt.
Yeah.
I've got a surprise for you. Do you listen to vinyl?
Get out of here. Yeah, no, I do.
I scoured
Matter of fact.
some vinyl sales and found this for you.
Wow, this is incredible. This is really, really cool.
Have you heard that album?
I have, yeah.
Have you heard
I've definitely heard this. No, I've never heard this on vinyl.
There's a difference.
That is fantastic. I'm thrilled. Thank you, Sam.
Yes, sir.
I super appreciate it. That's
You're
so nice.
very, very welcome. I appreciate a person who appreciates fine music.
Cheers.
And you're the guy.
Yeah, thanks.
So listen, man, thank you for coming on here. This has been super interesting.
Yeah, you
I've
know it.
enjoyed this.
I'm thrilled to be here.
I look forward to seeing you more in Rocky Mount, out in the mills, stuff like that. And you're a good guy, good young guy in the community. And thank you. Appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. It's a true pleasure.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Hey, I want to thank my special guest, Austin Meyrick, for coming tonight. We had a lively discussion. Next time, tune in for Alan Chesser, right here on WHIG every Thursday night at 10. Tune in to Up Late for Sam Bass. Until then, I'll see you soon.